Hello and welcome to this instalment of Talkin Trim. I'm Jonathon Skinner and today we are looking at the rear deck and spare wheel cover kit as well as the boot trunk liner kit for the Austin Healey BN1 and BN2 models. So essentially that's the 104 models out of the big Healey range, and they did transfer over. Basically they're exactly the same for the BN1s and the BN2s. Now this video is a bit of a continuation video. If you see the links at the end of this one, you'll see a link to a carpet set and rear deck kit that I did the other day, which was from a BN1 because the carpet set on the BN1 did change from the BN2, so bear that in mind. When it comes to these parts here, they are shared between the BN1 and the BN2. And what we've got is an upgrade kit. Both of these parts have been done in wool carpet. Originally from the factory, they were done in a PVC Armorcord material, which was effectively a coloured ribbed PVC topping with a felt backing on it, which I'll show you an example of in a second. And again, see video links at the end of this one because I have done a video showcasing these exact kits again, but in the original Armorcord. But we can also offer them in upgraded materials, so carpet. And in the carpet, we can offer it in nylon, carvel, or wool. This specific customer has gone for wool. He's gone for dark blue wool, and it's to match a very upgraded premium kit that he's gone for, where everything in his car is leather, including all the door panels. The seat covers themselves are full leather spec, not to be confused with the factory spec leather faced versions. And yeah, he's gone for wool carpets, and then wool for the rear deck kit and the boot trunk liner kit, so bear that in mind. And wool being the most premium version of carpet that you can put in these cars. I'll show you an example in a second of how to see the quality of wool, but bear in mind there are too many manufacturers of wool carpets in the restoration industry. We use the more premium, the better version wool. In fact, let me show you now quickly. If I zoom in, you can see here, best way of seeing how good a quality carpet is you bend it in half sharply and you see how much of the backing you can see through. And on this one, you can barely see any of the backing on there, and that means that the pile is very dense. If you did that to one of the other main suppliers of wool carpets in the industry, you would find that you would see the backing very quickly, and that's because very easily rather, and that's because the pile is nowhere nearly as densely packed on their wool carpets. The rubber backing on ours as well is very smooth, whereas the other version is quite rough and rugged, and you tend to find it starts breaking off quite easily, especially around areas where you have to bend it over sort of bulkheads and gearboxes and things like that. So bear that in mind. We did go down the route of very briefly using that wool because it was a lot more cost effective for us, but we found it was just a fool's game because we ended up with a far less superior product. And our key is to make sure that we use the most suitable and best materials for people's restorations, otherwise it's just not worth it. So we insist you have samples from us to see that, because even from the starter blocks, some companies should rule themselves out because they're just not using the correct materials when it comes to the more premium side of things. Even for those companies that do tend to use the same wool as us, then it comes down to accuracy of patterns, quality and workmanship, which again, we stand alone on. But that's just a brief overview of the quality of the carpet that we used to start with. Now, going back to the kits in this video, we effectively have two kits, or rather three actually. Everything in your picture there is effectively the rear deck and spare wheel cover kit. If I then zoom in, you've got the two tabs there for the battery box, which again is sold separately. So that's a very small kit. And then everything in the picture now is the boot trunk liner kit. So we sell them completely separately to one another, and I'm going to go over each part as in depth as possible to give you a real good oversight on it. But like I say, do check out the other videos, including the ones showing the these kits in the original PVC Armorcord material. But this has been done in dark blue wool, which wasn't original, but it looks lovely. We can obviously offer it in nylon or carvel carpet if you prefer. So do talk to us about what you're sort of thinking, and we can tailor it to your needs using our experience and stuff. The original material was Armorcord. This is an example of Armorcord. So it's a ribbed PVC material in the colour, and it's got a felt backing on it. So anything in carpet in these videos here would have originally been in that material there. It is worth mentioning that the BN1 and BN2 models, the colour-wise, it transcended through. So whereas on the later the later Healeys that tended to, most of the 4-seaters actually, that tended to have just black in the boot trunk area, for the earlier cars, they used the same colour as the main interior. And that's because there was a bit of a transition in between main cockpit and boot trunk area where the spare wheel was. So it makes logical sense that you use the same material. So we do, and colour. It is recommended you consider getting both of these kits at the same time so that you're using the exact same batch. And that's why I'm doing the video, to kind of showcase what you should be considering getting at the same point in time. Like I say, dark blue wool. We've edged it in Austin Healey blue. Now we have 2 shades of blue that we use for Healey restorations for our vinyl and leather parts. We have dark blue, which is really dark, and then we have Austin Healey blue, which is still dark, but a bit more blue. And that actually is in line with originality. Healey did use 2 shades of blue during most of their big Healey restorations. They didn't reference a change. It would always just say a blue on the heritage certificate. But we know for a fact from original samples and from working with some of the top tier restorers in the world for almost 50 years now, they definitely did use 2 shades of blue. And I believe we're the only company in the industry that really acknowledge that and offer you those choices. So like I said, this has been done in AH blue on the edging, but dark blue for the carpets, which is the only shade of darkish blue that you can get for carpets. It's to go in a very premium upgrade kit for a customer over in Australia who has gone for wool throughout on the sort of floor areas, but then he's gone for full leather for his trim panels, full leather for the seats, not to be confused with the original leather face spec. He's gone for literally full leather, even down to the point we've done these wheel arch bits in leather. The only bit we've kind of done in vinyl is actually the spare wheel cover, because it didn't seem particularly logical for its purpose to do that in leather, because you'd end up compromising and damaging leather. We can do it in leather if you want, and we have done them in leather before, but I think most people will revert to vinyl for that section there. Also, the strips of material that are sewn onto some of these pieces that get wrapped around for trimming, they've also been done in vinyl as opposed to leather, but sort of the main pieces in his car have been done in leather as an upgrade. So it's going to look lovely when it's in the car, and I do hope to get some photos that I'll put on the website for it. Edging, we use leathercloth, not vinyl, and do see our blog and handbook and YouTube video, if I haven't already done them, about the differences between the edging. Leathercloth, also known as vinide or Rexin, was the original material used during this era of manufacture for a lot of different British classic cars. It's different to vinyl. Vinyl and leathercloth, they have different backings. One has a woven cotton backing, the other one has a knitted cotton backing. So one's slightly thicker and stretches a bit more, the other one is slightly thinner and doesn't stretch as much. You want one that's thinner and doesn't stretch as much for carpets, edging and piping, and that's because it goes around such tight parameters, either around the edge of a carpet or in this case piping around a piping core there, that you want it to be as thin as possible, otherwise it becomes a bit bulbous. But also leathercloth doesn't snag nearly as easily, so or at all really. If you run your finger down on leathercloth, you'll find that you barely get any traction or grip on it, which is what you want, whereas vinyl, it'll be a lot grippier. You could easily snag it, which isn't great. And you also find it tends to kind of wrinkle up when you go around corners, whereas leathercloth doesn't at all. And you get a lovely, beautiful finish. It's like a little fold over turn on the edge there. So yeah, we're one of the only companies in the industry that stays true to using leathercloth for edging all of our carpets. A lot of other companies out there use vinyl as a cost-saving exercise so that they don't have to have an extra material stocked, whereas we get all of our binding and our piping specially made, all of these slits in it, which means that you can bend it around and you're not getting any wrinkles on it whatsoever. It's fantastic stuff. So again, these are the little things that we're well known for within the industry that make our kits second to none. Not just quality of the raw materials, but also the suitability to purpose, and of course down to the patterning of our carpets and all of our parts. We know that ours fit the cars extremely well, best fitting in the industry, and that's why we're known globally. We work with some of the most premium restorers of Healeys in the world, people like JME, Healey, Rules Motorsport, Murray Scott Nelson, to name but three. And also it's worth noting that we have supplied several kits to some of the leading people within the Austin Healey club community in the world, especially over in America. We've not just supplied kits for cars that have been entered into concours competitions, but we've actually supplied kits for concours judges. I know at least three judges of the concours events over in America that we have supplied not just one but a few Austin Healey kits for, and I feel that's a real stamp of approval towards our quality workmanship and accuracy, that side of it, so keep that in mind as well. Right, let's dive into it. So let's start with the rear deck kit. So here we've got the rear deck kit. We've also got obviously the straps, which we'll come to, but let's start with the rear deck kit. So you start off with the rear floors. Effectively, they are situated underneath the seats. They have the cutaways for the wooden seat runners there and there. So you get those. They are bound all the way around. That rhymed. You then had, this is the majority of the rear deck kit here. Let's try and get the glare off. So you had the battery box cover, you had the main sort of rear shelf which went down onto the lower bulkhead, spare wheel cover, you had the sort of main upper rear bulkhead section there with the cutaway for the spare wheel cover, and then right in the corner there you had the little wheel arches as well. Now that is the sort of rear shelf and lower bulkhead. It obviously bent down over the shelf. That's the cutaway there for the gearbox tunnel going backwards. Now we edge most of the edges on here, so that's edged around there. Also these side bits are edged around here. The concept on unbound edges is done intentionally like that because that will then tuck underneath the adjacent bound edge. And the general overriding concept with binding of carpets is that no unbound edge will be on show when everything's in the car, because it will either get covered up by the adjacent bound edge of another carpet piece or maybe a panel or something like that. So keep that in mind. And because of that, we have altered our patterns and designs to make them suitable for fitment during arguably an era of manufacturing that just wasn't particularly consistent. And a lot of other suppliers out there will use that as an excuse for their poorly designed and fitting kits. We don't. We have made, one, we know our patterns are extremely accurate, but we've also made subtle changes that make them, shall we say, easily transferable into cars where perhaps they weren't as consistently made as the rest, or they've had some major works done in the interim period. And the prime example of these sorts of things here, where we're making this bit deeper than it needs to be deliberately, so it tucks underneath the adjacent rear floors, so that if there is any slight bodywork changes in that area, you're always covering the floor in carpet and making sure everything smoothly goes into one another. Same again on these outside edges here. Sometimes on some of the cars you will literally find that that fits perfectly round these sort of side sections here, but other times you'll find that you'll actually end up tucking them underneath the adjacent quarter panel. I've got some fantastic photos of part trim cars that customers have sent us showing these details here, and again, it's this level of understanding that really puts us ahead of most other suppliers out there, because we know that we've made a kit that ultimately can be adjusted very easily to fit your individual car. So that's effectively the rear shelf area. Now there'll obviously be a big hole cut out in there. We do not pre-cut it. We do that by design because you want to make sure it fits left to right ultimately first before you go pre-cutting anything in the middle. So again, that's done by design. You then had a piece of carpet in this instance that was used to cover the battery box lid, which had vinyl sewn onto the edge. And the reason we use vinyl there is because it's actually a tab that gets turned around and trimmed onto the back of the panel. So effectively, when everything's said and done, it does kind of look like it's edged, but actually it's a vinyl tab that goes all the way around the back of it on there. That's effectively that piece. Let's try and move it out of the glare of the lights above me. So it's that piece there. Now it's worth touching on these straps, which, like I say, are sold separately because they are the battery box straps. Again, they are made out of leather. We've done these out of Austin Healey blue smooth leather. We can also offer grained for most colours. They have the fixings pre-inserted into them, and they are not in this picture. Of course they're not. I think there is a Nice image of a BN6 and BN7 a bit further on. There we are, perfect. Same concept on the BN6 and BN7. You had two of them there for the battery box elements there. So that's those sections there. Let's get back to that page. So they're sold separately, but you should consider getting them at the same time. Keeping in that area of the battery box, we also supply a piece of material, again carpet in this regard, that sits actually inside the battery box underneath there. So that's included as well. You then have the sort of rear bulkhead bit, which literally bends round the corner, and then it has this cutaway here. That's roughly where the spare wheel's going there. So that's this section here. That's obviously the big part there, which is there. And it's bending all the way around, and you can see it just bending into the corner there. So that's that piece there. Again, it's bound on one edge, extended on the outside edges to allow for easy fitment. And then you had this strip sewn across the top, which is obviously glued to the bodywork section there. You then had the spare wheel cover. So it's a piece of flooring material, again in this regard, wool, but normally Armorcord. Has a vinyl strip on the side there that trims into the actual boot section, which I'll show you in a second. And then you have the sewn spare wheel cover there. Again, like I say, we've done this one in vinyl, which is by far and away the most common choice done, but we can offer that in leather if you really do want it. It has some nice top stitching detail, obviously the piping, lovely neat finished ends on the piping as well, no exposed raw edge pipings on those bits there. So that's included as well, which is obviously this piece here, and that's where the wheel is. So what's directly underneath that wheel there is that piece there. And that's exactly what I mean about considering getting both pieces at the same time, because effectively they go into the boot trunk area. So you want it doing in the same materials basically. And then finally, you get the wheel arch covers. Now the wheel arch covers are standardly done in vinyl to sort of match the spare wheel cover there, but we've done these wheel arch covers in leather at the request of the customer, because obviously his main trim panels etc are leather, and they're pre-cut, they're sewn with some piping on them. The piping disappears down there, and you have a nice tail on there, which is done deliberately so you can use it during the trimming process to pull that around and wrap it around into place to get nice tension on it. So again, it's these little details that we do that really do help during the trimming process. So you get a pair of those there, and that is effectively the rear deck kit and spare wheel cover. Now moving on to the sort of boot trunk area, let me just move way to the back so you can get a bit of a view of it all there. So the boot trunk kit's obviously everything in the picture right now. Imagine I'm stood at the back of the car looking into the boot trunk area. Obviously I refer to it as boot trunk because us Brits refer to it as a boot, but our American cousins refer to it as a trunk, so we've combined them. Boot trunk, there we go. So starting at the back of the car, actually before I dive in, it's worth noting that the very early BM1s used a slightly different kit. The boot mat was the main difference, where it was slightly wasn't as wide left to right. Very, very rare. Barely seen them at all. This was by far and away the most commonly seen one. Both will fit the cars, but presumably this version is the better fitting one, because that's why they adapted to it for the majority of the cars. But the very sort of first incarnations of the BM1s would have had a slightly different kit to this one. In fact, I believe this photo here shows an early one, where you can see it is slightly narrower left to right than the one I'm showing you here. But like I say, this is by far and away the most commonly seen version here. So what we've got is, start off with the obvious piece. It's the main boot floor, the main boot mat. It's all pre-sewn. It has a cut out there and sewing finish around there for obviously the pump element coming out there. You then had flaps effectively sewn in, so you had a right and a left as you're looking in the car there, which basically helped these pieces bend down into the rear wheel well section there. So they kind of, it's hard to do one-handed, but they kind of all bend down into the wheel wells at the left and right side. So sort of down there and down there, you can just about see where it's starting to recess down. So that's to allow for that bend to come down there. Same principle on the very back here, that bends down like a step like there. You can see it falling off like a waterfall there, and that kind of covers the inside element of the valance towards the front of the car almost. Leads on nicely to this piece. This piece here is effectively the rear valance, so that is situated literally down there. That's pre-custom bound and has some cutaways there for the various elements in the car. Going back to the boot mat, you also had this cutaway here, which is for a pipe. There we are. And it's bound around that piece there. So that's effectively the main piece there with the rear valance there. You then had these pieces, left and right, which kind of covered the outside wheel well areas down here, left and right. Again, please do contact me. It's a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, even for professional trimmers. Contact me. I've got some good photos that do show certain elements in a bit more depth on these sort of things. But these are roughly laid out in the orientation that they go in the car. But obviously, because of the recesses and dip downs and whatnot, it can be a bit confusing to look at because everything's flat on here. So do contact me if you're unsure for some photos on that. But yeah, so they're effectively the pieces down in the sort of left and right wheel wells going sort of down here. You then had, I guess, the wheel arch cover there and there, which again, they're sewn pieces, and they had some binding on them that then changed at the angle in line with the shape of the bodywork in that section there. So you can see here, can you make out that with the stitch line, and then that's the binding going up there. So they're on effectively the vertical on the left and right sides there. You then had this effective front bulkhead section here, nice and easy. That's literally that piece there. So it sits directly below where the spare wheel comes through into the boot trunk area there. That had some binding on it, a vinyl tab there that gets glued down into this section here, which is kind of the storage box, I guess. And then it also had pre-cut slits, which are the guides for the pipe and whatnot there. And then finally you had the pieces where it kind of covers the little cubby box on the side there, including this piece here, which has some binding and some sewing on it, and that effectively wraps around the wall like that, which is this section here. So that piece goes there, and then these are the other lining bits for the same area in that cubby box effectively. Like I say, contact me for more details and photos on them. And of course, if you're in the process of trimming or have trimmed using one of our kits, we'd love to see some photos because they can become very useful for not just our internal notes, but ultimately to allow other classic car enthusiasts and Healey restorers out there an easier time in terms of the jigsaw puzzle that is retrimming a classic car. We do like to, obviously we're a business first and foremost, but we're very proud of our reputation and name of producing quality kits, but also adding to the community in terms of being able to assist people in the restoration process. And you know, there's a lot of enthusiastic hobbyists out there that want to redo their interior trim using well-made kits like ours, as opposed to getting a professional trimmer to do it all for them. And they need some guidance on these things. And obviously we are working on very in-depth guides for these sorts of kits, but we need your help in that regard. So please do share any photos that you have, and not just of finished kits, but we love to see part trimmed cars, because it really does detail and show areas that are sometimes overlooked and forgotten when everything's said and done, because they're so out the way. So please do give back in that regard, because it helps overall the community of restoring these cars to a very premium level. So please do that. Anyway, I think I've covered my bases in that. So like I say, please do check out the video links at the end of this video for other useful BM1 and BM2 restoration kits, but also just check out our YouTube channel. Well over 600 videos, maybe 700 videos now, and I plan to keep on adding to them. I hope you guys enjoy them. Please do give me some feedback either in the comments area or contact me directly. I do the videos off the top of my head. Undoubtedly I miss some things or glide over other elements, so do let me know. I'm here to help and serve, and obviously I want to showcase the quality and workmanship of our products. That's why I do it. So yeah, please do give feedback. But thanks for tuning in. Please remember to like, share and subscribe. Share with other classic car enthusiasts out there. And of course, do check out our other videos. And if you've got a restoration up and coming, please do contact me via our website contact page or just drop us an email. I look forward to hearing from you. And please do be sure to check out our other videos. See you next time.